Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing 3 demos on the Colourpop She palette. So I know that this palette is, I believe, discontinued. I think they just had their last restock on this palette. But when I did my Colourpop palette guide recommendation video, a lot of you guys said that you did want to see a 3 demo look on this palette even if it was discontinued. Because a lot of you guys do own this palette but you don't know what to do with it. So for that reason, I decided to just film this video anyways. So this video is for those of you guys that already own this palette. I was honestly really contemplating on filming this video because I was like, what's the point of filming a video on a product that's like, you know, no longer available. But again, it's for those of you guys that actually do own this palette and need some inspiration for it. This video alone was very hard to film. I had a lot of lighting issues. In some clips I look very blue and grey, and then some other clips I look very orange and yellow. Also, this palette alone was tricky enough. This palette only has 4 mattes, and as you can see, it's not a good variety of mattes. They are all very similar in tone. And again, with the shimmer shades, they're just very similar. I just feel like this palette was very hard to create 3 different looks. And you guys know that I do try my best to make all 3 looks to look very different techniques. But this palette, I found it very hard. I feel like this was one of the hardest 3 demo looks that I've done. I am not going to talk too much about this palette because I did do a whole review on this. I will link that original video down below. But overall, this is a palette that I wouldn't recommend. Even if you could buy it right now, I wouldn't even recommend it. So I feel like even though it's discontinued, I feel like you're not really missing out on anything special, you know what I mean? So in saying that, if you are interested in seeing the 3 demo looks that I came up with this one palette, then just continue watching. Okie dokie, for look number 1, we are going with the shade Duchess as our transition shade. I am using circular and windshield wiping motions and putting that straight into my crease. I am focusing most of the product in the outer corner of my eye and then blending what is ever left into the inner corner of my crease and slowly blending that up to our brow bone. And then we'll be taking the shade called Missy, and this is going into the outer third of our eye. I am just using circular motions, and what is ever left on my brush, I will slowly build that up into the inner corner of my eye as well. Next, we'll be taking the shade called Damsel, and we are going to use a very small blending brush and focus this on the outer corner of our eye once again. This is just going into a smaller portion of our outer third and not going past the previous shade. That way we are creating more of a gradient. Then we'll be taking the shade called Chick, and this is going into the inner corner of our lids. I am using this shade Wet, and I would recommend that you do your eyes first and then your foundation because this shade in particular does have a lot of fallout. It's more of like a glittery metallic, and I am just taking this a little bit above my natural crease and then going back into the shade Missy and just blending all the shimmers and mattes together. That way there are no harsh lines. Going back into the shade Damsel, this is going on our lower lash line. I am just running this from inner to outer corner, just making this very blown out and also very smoky. We will be taking the shade Chick once again, and I'm going to use this to highlight my brow bone and also the inner corners of my eye. That way the whole look would just look very cohesive. And this will be the completed look for look number 1. For lashes, I am wearing Noir Fairy Light from House of Lashes, and for my lip color, it is the Luxe Lipstick by Colourpop in the shade Hello Stranger. First up, I am taking the shade Missy, and this is going to be our transition shade. Just the same as the first demo, we are putting this straight into our crease using windshield wiping motions and also circular motions to get the perfect blend. This shade is a little bit darker to be used straight off as a transition shade, so just take your time with it. These shades can be a little bit harder to blend out when you are first just placing them straight onto your eye, so just take your time with it and it will surely blend out. And then I'll be using the shade called Damsel, and this is going all over our lid. I am focusing most of the product onto my actual lid space and then blending what is ever left up into the transition. You want to make sure you don't go past the transition shade that we placed down because we do want to have that berry tone gradient. Honestly, I do struggle with this. I always take my eyeshadow too high, but hey, we're all practicing here. Then I'll be using the shade Empress, and this is going all over our lid where we placed that purple shade just before. This is going to be more of a glittery, smoky eye. So I do like to use the shade Wet. Again, the same kind of technique, just focusing most of the product onto my actual lid and what is ever left blended up into the transition shade. And then we'll be taking the shade Mademoiselle, and I'm using my finger and I'm just going to place this onto the center of my lid. This is just going to create a lot more dimension and just have more lilac purple glitters in the eye. Going back to the shade called Missy, we are going to use this on our lower lash line first. I'm just doing my same usual technique that I do on my lower lash line, just really smoking it out from inner to outer corner. And then I will take the shade Damsel, which is the darker purple, and just really press this against my lower lash line. We are kind of mimicking what we did on our top lid onto our bottom lid. Quickly just taking the Colourpop Creme Gel Liner in the shade Crybaby, and I'm just going to line my bottom waterline with this. And that, guys, is look number 2 completed. For lashes, I am wearing Demure Lite from House of Lashes. And for my lip color, it is one of the Luxe lipsticks. Once again, this one is in the shade Sitting Pretty. Okay, the last and final look, I am taking the shade Dear. This is going to be our transition shade. Again, this is too dark to be a transition shade, so it's going to take a little bit more time to blend out, so make sure you just take your time with this. Then using the shade Missy, I am putting this straight into my crease once again. I am putting this a little bit lower than the first transition shade. We want to start creating more depth. Since this look is going to be a cut crease, you want to make sure there is a lot of depth into the crease. That way the cut crease will actually pop out. And then I'm just taking some concealer on the back of my hand and I'm gonna start slowly cutting out my crease. I feel like I have explained this technique so many times, but I will always explain it because, you know, there might be someone new here and doesn't know this technique. So what I like to do is just place the concealer all over my lid. I am doing a full-on cut crease, so I'm taking it all the way from the inner corner of my lid to the outer corner of my lid. And I'm just slowly creating the shape of my crease, like naturally, and just placing it all over where I think it's needed. And then I will look up, and this is going to create a mark. If I go above this line, for sure there is going to be no creasing. This technique is great for people that have hooded eyes, monolids, or just a lot of folds in their eyes like I do. And then I'll just take more of a finer brush. This brush is actually a paintbrush, and just really go up to that crease and really define it a lot more. And then we'll be taking the shade Babe, and this is going right on top of the concealer that we just placed down. You want to make sure you are very careful when you are placing on top of the concealer that you don't go past the crease, because we don't want no transfer up in here. So just take your time with it. I feel like a lot of eye looks, just take your time with it. I promise you, if you take your time, the eye look will come out a lot better. I am just taking a bit of the shade Damsel and taking a very small pointy brush, just going against that crease to really define everything. And then I'll be taking the Ultra Satin Lip from Colourpop in the shade Darling, which is from the same collection. But you can use any purple liner that you have. I clearly didn't have one. And I am just going to create a wing with this. I just want to do something a little bit different, you know. I don't want to do my usual black wing liner that I do in every single look. And I think purple was another fun way of doing something a little different from the normal. You know what I mean? And once I have my wing on over here, I am just connecting the cut crease to the wing. That way everything just kind of flows together. Going back into the shade Dare, this is going on our lower lash line. You guys know the drill. Inner to outer corner to make it very blown out and smoky. And then using the shade Damsel to really define the lower lash line, just pressing it up against that bottom lash line. And that is it. This is the third and final completed look. For lashes, I am wearing Demure Lite once again from House of Lashes. For my lip color, this is the Luxe lipstick in the shade Layover. And that, guys, is going to conclude my 3 demo look for today. Be sure to let me know which look out of the 3 was your favorite in the comments down below. If you did enjoy watching this video and did find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up for me. I would appreciate it so much if you did. But yeah, that is everything for today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!